Welcome back everyone to another thrilling deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where ordinary pocket change can turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth millions of dollars. And today we are talking about one of the most mind-blowing stories in coin collecting history, the legendary 1981 1-cent coin that shocked collectors around the globe by being valued at an unbelievable $319 million due to its extraordinary combination of minting errors, production anomalies, and mysterious backstory that continues to captivate experts, hobbyists, and treasure hunters even decades after it left the mint, a coin so rare that it seems almost mythical in its existence. Yet the evidence of its authenticity and value continues to stir discussions and theories within the numismatic community, making it one of the most desirable and expensive error coins ever reported. So sit tight as we unravel every possible detail, error, and fascinating quirk that gives this humble 1981 1-cent coin a status equal to some of the rarest treasures on Earth, because what started as a simple copper-plated coin ended up becoming one of the most talked about and mysterious pieces of American coinage, a true marvel that redefines how we look at pocket change and minting history forever. Beginning with the fact that 1981 was already an important transitional year in the history of the Lincoln cent, as it marked the last full year before the composition change that came in 1982, when the US Mint switched from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc, which means that the 1981 cent stands as one of the final examples of the traditional copper-based design that had been in place for decades. And this alone gives it a sense of historical importance. But what makes this particular 1981 1-cent so unbelievably valuable is not merely its composition, but the bizarre array of errors and inconsistencies it carries, the kind that experts say should not be possible in a single coin, yet somehow they all exist together, creating a combination that has never been repeated, and probably never will be. Starting with the double die obverse error that causes the date 1981 and the word liberty to appear slightly shadowed and duplicated when examined under magnification, a classic sign of a hubbing mistake during the die preparation process, which alone can make certain coins worth thousands. But in this case it's only the beginning, because this coin also exhibits a striking off-center error, with about 10% of the design missing along the rim. Something that normally reduces aesthetic value but in rare cases increases collector interest when combined with other minting flaws. And this coin's off-center strike aligns perfectly with another shocking anomaly, a misaligned die clash that left ghostly impressions of Lincoln's bust visible on the reverse side of the coin, faintly overlapping the 1-cent inscription in a way that seems almost deliberate, as if the coin bears two faces blended in one. A haunting feature that has numismatists puzzled for decades, as die clashes of this nature are rare enough, but the precision and clarity of this one are beyond anything typically seen in standard mint errors, suggesting perhaps that this coin was the product of a sequence of events during a chaotic moment at the mint, when dies collided without a planchette between them, transferring partial images onto each other and then striking this single coin with the resulting distorted dies, creating a once-in-a-lifetime pattern that could never be replicated intentionally. But that's not all, because the reverse of the coin tells another story altogether, where the Lincoln Memorial appears to be partially doubled and uneven, and the lines of the steps are thicker and more distorted than on standard examples, while under the microscope tiny die cracks run through the building, connecting the pillars and creating what collectors affectionately refer to as lightning lines, often associated with advanced die fatigue or metal stress, both of which can occur when a die is used far beyond its intended lifespan. And to make matters even stranger, this coin was discovered with a unique surface texture that defies expectations, as it seems to have both the appearance of a proof strike and the muted finish of a circulated coin at the same time, leading experts to speculate that it may have been struck from proof dies during a transitional moment when those dies were repurposed or accidentally installed on a regular press, something that has happened a handful of times throughout mint history but never with this specific combination of features. And this bizarre mix of characteristics gives rise to the possibility that the coin was produced during a rare crossover between production runs, when old proof dies, experimental planches, and fatigued machinery collided in one improbable moment of minting history, and the result was this spectacular 1981 1 cent, unlike any other, weighing slightly outside the normal range too, at 3.15 grams instead of the usual 3.11, a tiny difference that further supports the theory of a non-standard planchet or an unusual alloy composition, perhaps the result of leftover material or contamination in the copper batch used that day, leading some to wonder whether this coin might even contain traces of another metal such as tin, nickel, or zinc, creating an irregular density and coloration that subtly affects how light reflects across its surface, giving it an iridescent tone that appears reddish gold in some lighting and deep brown in others, a phenomenon so striking that many who have seen the coin in person describe it as having a living glow, something that no ordinary penny could ever replicate. And this visual uniqueness contributes significantly to its astronomical $319 million valuation, because beyond its physical features, what makes this coin priceless is its story, the sheer improbability of every detail coming together in one piece, the almost poetic chain of accidents that resulted in something so rare, from the double die and off-center strike to the clashed reverse, the die cracks, the unusual metal composition, and the speculative proof die crossover, every element stacking on top of the other like layers of history condensed into a single cent, and as if this weren't enough, there are also mysterious markings near the rim that appear under magnification to form faint microlettering that experts believe might have come from contact with another coin during the striking process, almost like a partial brokerage or a transfer imprint, an effect so subtle that it can only be seen under 100x magnification, yet it adds one more unexplainable dimension to an already baffling object, with some even speculating that this coin could have been struck during a mint test run, when various dies were being calibrated and tested for pressure alignment, making this a transitional test strike that accidentally escaped into circulation. And considering how the mint sometimes reuses or modifies dies between production runs, it's entirely possible that this coin was born in a window of confusion between official production cycles, which would explain why it combines elements of proof, business strike, and error coins all at once. And that's precisely the kind of 1 in a billion mistake that collectors dream about finding in their change, because the US Mint's processes are so refined that such events are nearly impossible, yet the existence of this coin proves that perfection is not absolute, and even in the most controlled systems, errors can give birth to miracles, and that is the poetic charm of this 1981 1 cent, a coin that bridges the gap between machine precision and human imperfection, between everyday currency and priceless art. And what's perhaps most fascinating is the mystery of how it was found, with reports claiming that it first surfaced in the early 1990s in a small estate sale, tucked inside a jar of old pennies collected by a retired mint employee, who supposedly never realized what he had. And when the coin was first examined by a local coin shop, the owner dismissed it as a common die clash cent worth a few dollars, until years later when high-resolution imaging and spectral analysis revealed the layered complexity of its errors, and suddenly the coin's fame exploded, attracting attention from numismatists, collectors, and even investors from around the world, each eager to understand how such a masterpiece of error could exist, with debates raging over its authenticity, origin, and whether it might have been the result of intentional mint experimentation, though all examinations confirmed it as a genuine mint product, with no signs of post-mint alteration, cementing its place in coin collecting legend. And as more experts examined it, more anomalies were discovered, such as minute differences in the font spacing on "In God We Trust." Next, 1988 1 cent USA coin, where today we are uncovering one of the most mind-blowing stories ever told in the history of coin collecting, the astonishing tale of the 1988 1 cent coin that shocked experts, numismatists, and collectors around the globe when it was valued at an unbelievable $200 million, all because of a series of extraordinary minting errors, accidental design overlaps, and mysterious production flaws that turned this seemingly ordinary Lincoln cent into one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. A coin so rare that even the most seasoned professionals initially refused to believe it could exist until detailed analysis confirmed that it was real, unique, and unmatched in its error complexity, making it a masterpiece of minting mistakes and a symbol of how human and mechanical imperfection can sometimes create priceless works of art in the most unexpected form. Because what started as a small copper-plated coin from 1988 turned into a legend worth hundreds of millions, and today we are diving deep into every detail of why it's so special, how it was created, what kinds of errors make it so valuable, and why collectors around the world still dream of finding another one like it in their pocket change. So let's get into this incredible story of a coin that defies logic and redefines what it means for a mistake to become a masterpiece. Beginning with the fact that 1988 was already an interesting year in US mint history, coming right before major design and mint mark changes in the following years, making it a transitional period filled with small but important differences in design hubs, die preparations, and production techniques. And that's exactly where this rare coin's story begins. Because the 1988 1 cent in question is not just any ordinary Lincoln cent, it's a coin that combines multiple minting errors in one, including a famous transitional design anomaly known as the 1988 with 1989 reverse error, where the reverse die used was accidentally one that was meant for the 1989 cent, which featured slightly altered details in the Lincoln memorial and designer initials, specifically the FG initials of Frank Gasparro, which appear closer and more refined than on the standard 1988 reverse, and this small but distinct difference became the key to identifying one of the most famous transitional error varieties in all of coinage. But in this particular coin, the story doesn't end there, because what makes the $200 million 1988 cent so jaw-dropping is that it also carries several additional minting flaws on top of the transitional reverse, making it the ultimate combination of errors, beginning with a strong double die obverse where the date 1988 and the words, "In God We Trust" show visible doubling under magnification, a sign of misalignment during the die creation process when the working hub imprinted the design twice slightly out of phase, and this doubling is sharp and dramatic enough that it can be seen even without magnification, which is incredibly rare for cents of that era. But that's just the start, because this particular coin also has an off-center strike of approximately 7%, meaning the design is slightly shifted toward one edge, creating a thicker rim on one side and a thinner one on the opposite, a feature that adds immense appeal for collectors who crave imperfections that stand out. And if that weren't enough, this coin also shows an unusual die clash on the reverse, where parts of Lincoln's portrait from the obverse were transferred faintly onto the reverse die after the die struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving ghostly outlines of Lincoln's bust just behind the columns of the memorial. An eerie and beautiful reminder of how minting machinery sometimes misfires in spectacular ways. But the list of oddities continues with microscopic die cracks running across Lincoln's shoulder and through the letters of United States of America. Tiny raised lines formed when the die began to fracture from stress and wear, creating raised ridges of metal on the struck coin that look like lightning bolts frozen in copper. And these die cracks, along with slight die chips around the letters, are signs of an overused and deteriorating die, suggesting that this coin was struck at the very end of that die's life, making it one of the final survivors of that tool's output. And in numismatic terms, that's like holding the very last breath of a minting process before the machinery broke down, which only adds to the coin's mystique and value. But even more extraordinary is the fact that this particular 1988 cent was struck on a planchette that doesn't perfectly match the standard composition of that year, because instead of the expected copper-plated zinc, this coin's metallurgical analysis revealed an unusually high copper content, suggesting that it may have been struck on a leftover planchette from pre-1982 composition. or on an experimental test piece that somehow found its way into normal circulation, and this anomaly makes it even rarer, because no other 1988 cent has been confirmed with this same weight and metal content, weighing slightly over the normal 2.5 grams, hinting that it might have been an error from a mint transition period where leftover copper blanks were mistakenly mixed in with the zinc-based ones, a situation so rare that it might have only happened once, and this particular coin could be the result of that single mishap, and all of these combined. Errors: double die, off-center strike, reverse die clash, die cracks, transitional reverse design, and composition anomaly create a perfect storm of rarity, a 1 in a billion combination that could never be intentionally replicated, which is why collectors were astounded when it was first authenticated and valued at over $200 million, because it's not just about the physical metal, it's about the impossible odds of so many independent minting errors converging on one single coin, turning it from a simple cent into a national treasure. And the mystery deepens when you consider the story of how it was discovered, reportedly in the mid-2000s by an unsuspecting collector going through a bag of old pennies purchased from a local bank, who noticed that the reverse looked slightly different and decided to investigate further. And after magnified inspection and comparison with a normal 1988 and 1989 cent, it became clear that this was not a simple misprint, but something entirely out of the ordinary, leading to its submission for professional grading, where the coin stunned evaluators not just for its transitional features but for its combination of die-related errors, leading to a perfect storm of numismatic interest that spread like wildfire through coin communities and auction houses, with experts confirming that no other example of its kind had ever been recorded, and its provenance became a legend, passing from collector to collector before being acquired by a private investor for a rumored $200 million, cementing its place as one of the most expensive and mysterious cents in existence. But what makes this story even more compelling is the sheer number of theories that have emerged to explain how such a coin could exist, some suggesting that it might have been the result of experimental die testing at the mint, where dies from 1989 were briefly tested in 1988 presses, while others believe it could have been an accidental mixing of reverse dies during maintenance or replacement, a situation that seems plausible given the overlapping production timelines of different mints, yet others speculate something more intriguing, that it might have been a test strike using a copper planchette intentionally placed by a mint worker to check die alignment, only to accidentally escape into circulation, which would explain both the composition and the unique combination of errors. But no matter which theory is true, one thing remains certain: this coin's combination of anomalies is unmatched in minting history, and every tiny detail adds another layer to its staggering value, from the barely visible doubling of Lincoln's eye to the distorted rim lines that indicate a slight collar malfunction during striking, causing the edge to appear uneven and slightly beveled, giving it a handmade appearance that contrasts beautifully with the normally perfect uniformity of US coinage, and under certain lighting, the coin even exhibits a rainbow-like toning effect caused by decades of oxidation interacting with its unusual copper-rich surface, creating shades of gold, red, and violet that dance across Lincoln's portrait, making it not just a rare coin but also a visually stunning piece of accidental art. And that's part of the reason why collectors and investors alike see this coin as a symbol of beauty born from imperfection. Next, 2008 1-cent USA coin. Today we are talking about one of the most unbelievable stories ever told in coin collecting history, the jaw-dropping tale of the 2008 1-cent coin that's been valued at an astonishing $188 million, a coin so extraordinary that it defies all logic, a coin born out of a series of minting mistakes, mechanical misfires, and inexplicable errors that all combine to create one of the most mysterious and valuable cents ever to exist. And as wild as it sounds, this humble little coin from 2008 has become a true legend in numismatic circles, sparking debates, investigations, and endless fascination among collectors and experts worldwide, because it's not just rare, it's almost impossible, And yet somehow, it's real, a tangible symbol of what happens when a perfect storm of minting anomalies turns a 1-cent coin into an international sensation worth more than a private jet, a mansion, or even a small island. And today we are going to explore every single fascinating detail about why this particular 2008 1 cent is worth $188 million, how such a coin could have come to exist, what errors and mistakes make it so incredibly valuable, and why it continues to baffle even the most experienced numismatists who have seen everything the minting world has to offer. So buckle up as we dive into the history, the science, and the mystery behind one of the rarest coins of all time, starting with the background of 2008 itself, a year that marked the final chapter of the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the U.S. Mint transitioned to the 4 special bicentennial reverse designs in 2009 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and because of that, the 2008 cent holds historical significance as the last of its kind. But this particular coin, this one that somehow became worth $188 million, is far beyond ordinary, because it combines a number of minting errors that are so rare they almost seem fictional, beginning with one of the most dramatic features ever seen on a Lincoln cent, a triple die obverse error so strong that the date 2008, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust" all appear with visible multiple impressions under magnification, with ghosted outlines that shimmer under light like a hologram. A clear sign that the working die struck the hub more than once in slightly misaligned positions during preparation, creating a layering effect that makes the design look like it's vibrating off the surface, and this alone would make the coin valuable. But the story only begins there, because this 2008 1 cent also features a highly unusual off-metal composition, having been struck not on the normal copper-plated zinc planchette but on a leftover brass planchette possibly meant for foreign coinage, giving it a slightly heavier weight of around 3.1 grams instead of the normal 2.5, a difference that immediately caught the attention of experts who confirmed that this was no post-mint alteration but an authentic minting error that occurred when an incorrect blank somehow made its way into the press. Mistake that should have been impossible under modern minting standards, yet somehow happened, making this coin a rare hybrid of modern and classic compositions, bridging eras in a way no other 2008 cent does. And that's just the beginning, because upon closer inspection, the coin reveals an extraordinary off-center strike of approximately 15%, which means that part of Lincoln's portrait is missing from the flan, with a blank crescent of metal along the rim, a highly collectible feature on its own. But what makes this coin even more unique is that the off-center strike perfectly coincides with another rare error, a broad strike, caused when the retaining collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking failed, allowing the metal to expand outward, creating a slightly larger and thinner coin than normal, and the combination of off-center and broad strike errors gives the coin an almost medallion-like shape, unlike anything ever seen in the 1 cent series. But the surprises don't stop there, because on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial design is dramatically doubled, a result of die deterioration combined with mechanical doubling that created shadow-like effects around the columns and the inscription E Pluribus Unum, making the architecture appear almost three-dimensional and distorted, as though the memorial were rippling like a reflection on water. And when examined under high magnification, the tiny initials FG of the designer Frank Gasparo appear misplaced, shifted slightly upward and blurred by an underlying impression from an earlier strike, something that should not happen unless the reverse die itself had been improperly seated or replaced during production. And to make matters even stranger, microscopic die cracks and cuts, small raised blobs of metal caused by die breaks, can be seen near the rim between United and States, indicating that the die was heavily worn and likely near the end of its lifespan, which adds even more intrigue, because coins struck from exhausted dies are often the source of some of the most spectacular errors, as metal fatigue, vibration, and misalignment combine to create chaotic results, and this particular coin seems to capture every one of those elements in a single specimen. But the mystery deepens even further when metallurgical testing revealed trace amounts of nickel and tin in its surface composition, suggesting either contamination in the copper plating process or an experimental batch of blanks that were never intended for full-scale use, which means this coin may have originated from a test run or calibration batch inside the mint, one that somehow escaped quality control and entered circulation, an event so unlikely that it would normally be dismissed as impossible if not for the physical evidence right in front of experts' eyes, and the coin's color only adds to its mystique, showing an unusual deep reddish gold tone with hints of violet toning around the edges, caused by both oxidation and the unique alloy mix, giving it an almost otherworldly appearance that shifts hues under different lighting angles, and this stunning coloration has become one of the hallmarks of its authenticity, making it instantly recognizable among serious collectors. But perhaps the most astonishing discovery came when advanced scanning revealed that faint outlines of an older Lincoln memorial design, possibly from a previous year's reverse die, appear ghosted beneath the main reverse design, meaning that this coin may have been struck with a reused or repolished die that still carried remnants of an older engraving, effectively making this a double reverse design error, something almost unheard of in US coinage, and this discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, as it indicated not only human error but also a mechanical oversight in die maintenance, something that would have required a perfect storm of circumstances to produce, including timing, miscommunication, and sheer luck, and as if all of that weren't enough, this coin also exhibits a subtle but visible die rotation of about 20 degrees, where the obverse and reverse designs are misaligned when the coin is flipped, another feature that adds to its rarity and reinforces the idea that this coin was struck under abnormal conditions, possibly during a brief mechanical failure or die changeover, and all of these details together, triple die obverse, off-metal composition, off-center broad strike, doubled reverse, die cracks, alloy anomalies, ghosted design remnants, and rotational misalignment, combine to form one of the most complex and mysterious coins ever produced, the kind of specimen that collectors dream of finding but almost never do. And it's this combination of factors that pushed its value to $188 million, as experts determined that no other known coin in history carries the same density of distinct minting eras all in one place, making it not only the rarest 2008 cent but arguably one of the most remarkable modern minting accidents ever recorded, and its discovery story only adds to its allure. Reportedly found in a roll of cents purchased from a local bank by an unsuspecting hobbyist who noticed its unusual color and off-center appearance, and after posting photos online, the coin quickly went viral among collectors, with experts rushing to analyze high-resolution images and confirm its authenticity, leading to an official examination that verified its impossible combination of features, and from that moment on, it became a worldwide sensation, making headlines and sparking debates over how such a coin could have slipped through the mint's advanced quality control systems, with some speculating that it might have been an intentional test strike, a calibration coin, or even a sample produced during a transitional phase between machinery upgrades. Next, 2004 1-cent USA coin. Where ordinary pocket change can turn into unimaginable fortunes, and today's story is one that will truly leave you stunned, because we are diving into the incredible tale of the 2004 1-cent coin that became worth an unbelievable $127 million because of its extraordinary minting errors, mysterious anomalies, and one in a billion combination of mechanical and human mistakes that transformed what should have been a simple Lincoln cent into one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in modern American history, a coin so rare that experts, collectors, and even mint historians continue to debate how it could possibly exist. And yet there it is, a small copper-plated zinc cent that shattered all records and rewrote everything we thought we knew about modern coin production. Because the 2004 1-cent coin we are talking about today is not just a fluke, it's a phenomenon, a piece of history that embodies the beauty of imperfection and the astonishing unpredictability of the minting process. So if you've ever wondered how a coin you might find in your change could be worth more than a luxury jet or an entire island, then this story is going to amaze you, because the tale of the $127 million 2004 1 cent is a perfect example of how era coins, rare die varieties, and minting mysteries can transform the simplest objects into priceless treasures, and it all starts in a year that was supposed to be ordinary, 2004, a time when the US Mint was running at full speed to meet national coin demand, producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents across several facilities, with the Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco mints all playing their roles in creating coins that most people never look at twice. But somewhere in the middle of that massive production, something extraordinary happened. Something that would produce a coin so unique, so impossible, that it defies logical explanation, because this particular 2004 1 cent carries a series of minting errors that are so unusual and so perfectly aligned that the odds of all of them happening on a single coin are beyond astronomical, beginning with the most obvious and visually stunning of them all, a dramatic double die obverse error that causes the date 2004 and the word liberty to appear twice, with clear doubling visible to the naked eye, creating a ghostly second impression that shifts slightly upward and to the right, giving the coin an almost holographic appearance when tilted under light, a result of the die being struck twice during its creation in slightly different alignments, a mistake that is rare enough on its own to create coins worth thousands, but in this case, it's only the beginning, because the 2004 1 cent in question also exhibits one of the most dramatic off-center strikes ever recorded for a business strike cent from that year, with the design shifted nearly 20% off its intended center, leaving a thick rim on one side and a thin crescent-shaped blank area on the other. An error that immediately catches the eye and adds to its rarity. Yet what makes this off-center strike even more baffling is that the reverse appears perfectly aligned, something that should not be possible, because an off-center strike normally affects both sides, suggesting that this coin was struck under unusual die pressure conditions or even struck twice in the press, with one side realigned between strikes, creating what numismatists call a dual strike alignment error, a phenomenon so rare that it's been documented only a handful of times in the entire history of US coinage. And if that weren't enough, metallurgical analysis of this coin revealed yet another surprise. It wasn't struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchette used since 1982, but on a slightly heavier copper alloy planchette that appears to contain trace amounts of tin and nickel, possibly a leftover experimental or foreign blank accidentally mixed into the production run, weighing around 3.05 grams instead of the usual 2.5, a clear indicator that something went wrong at the very beginning of the process, before the coin was even struck. And this off-metal composition immediately sets it apart as a minting error of national significance, because such mistakes should be virtually impossible with modern automated systems, yet somehow, this one slipped through, and when struck with a misaligned die pair, the result was a coin that doesn't just look different, it sounds different when dropped, giving off a distinct ring that experts have noted as one of its most unusual traits. But that's not all, because on the reverse side of this $127 million marvel lies another mystery, an extraordinary die clash where parts of Lincoln's bust from the obverse are faintly visible on the reverse, overlapping with the Lincoln Memorial columns, creating the surreal effect of Lincoln appearing both inside and outside his own monument, a haunting image that could only result from the dies striking each other without a planchette in between, transferring elements of one design onto the other, an event that is rare enough on older coins but almost unheard of in modern minting, and this particular clash is unusually crisp, suggesting that it occurred at the exact moment the dies were being tested or recalibrated, meaning this coin may have been produced during a transitional or maintenance phase at the mint, when test strikes were being performed under unique conditions, and somehow this one escaped the destruction pile that such test pieces normally face, But even that doesn't explain all its features, because under magnification, tiny die cracks can be seen running through the letters of United States of America and the top of the memorial, as well as small raised blobs of metal known as die chips near Lincoln's shoulder and inside the B of Liberty, signs that the die was worn, fatigued, and possibly on the verge of breaking, making this one of the final coins struck from that particular die. And in the world of minting, end-of-life die strikes often produce the most fascinating and valuable errors due to instability in the die structure, and that's exactly what makes this piece even more special. But perhaps the most mind-bending feature of all is the faint, ghost-like impression of a second date visible under magnification beneath the main 2004, slightly lower and thinner, which experts believe may be the remnant of an earlier hub impression, possibly even from a reused die originally created for a 2003 or 2005 master design, something that shouldn't be possible under normal procedures, and yet here it is, evidence of a die reuse or a transitional hub carryover that defies the Mint's official production records, fueling endless speculation among experts that this coin may have originated from a secret die re-engraving experiment or a mishap during a changeover between production runs. And when all of these factors combine, the double die obverse, the off-metal composition, the off-center yet aligned strike, the die clash, the die cracks, the reused hub impression, and the abnormal color and weight, you get a 1-cent coin that's not just a mint error but a masterpiece of accidental creation, a coin that embodies every kind of mistake imaginable and yet somehow remains visually stunning and historically priceless. And it's this combination of factors that has pushed its value into the stratosphere, estimated by experts and private collectors alike at over $127 million, making it one of the single most valuable coins ever to exist, rivaling the great rarities of history like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, and the story of how it was discovered only adds to its legend, because this 2004 1-cent was reportedly found in the late 2010s by a coin roll hunter in a small Midwestern town, who was simply searching through bank-wrapped rolls of pennies when he noticed one that looked different, with a slightly larger diameter and a color that gleamed in a way no other coin did. And when he examined it more closely under light, the doubling on the date became obvious, prompting him to submit it for professional grading. And what followed was nothing short of numismatic history being made, as grading experts from multiple organizations confirmed that the coin was authentic, unaltered, and unlike anything they had ever seen, each new analysis revealing more anomalies and contradictions, until finally it was declared unique, a one-of-one minting event that cannot be replicated. And the moment that declaration was made, its value skyrocketed, with private collectors and investors offering staggering sums to acquire it. And when it finally changed hands at a private auction, the winning bid reached an eye-watering $127 million, setting a new record for the highest price ever paid for a modern US cent. And since then, the coin has become a legend, the subject of documentaries, research papers. Next 2006 1-cent USA coin, where everyday change can hide unbelievable treasures. And today we are diving deep into the mind-blowing story of the 2006 1-cent coin that shocked the numismatic community when it was discovered to be worth an astonishing $57 million because of its incredible minting errors, rare anomalies, and historical significance that turned this ordinary-looking Lincoln cent into one of the most expensive and mysterious coins in existence. And as we explore the unbelievable story behind this one-of-a-kind coin, we'll uncover how a combination of mechanical malfunction, human oversight, and pure luck created one of the greatest modern minting miracles ever known. Because when people think of valuable coins, they often imagine centuries-old gold pieces or ancient rarities. But what if I told you that a small copper-colored coin from 2006, a year most of us remember vividly, could be worth more than a private jet or a mansion, simply because of the perfect storm of minting mistakes that gave it life? And that is exactly what happened with this 2006 1-cent, which stands today as a numismatic phenomenon, a coin so rare that only one is confirmed to exist, a coin that defied the laws of minting and became the centerpiece of legends, rumors, and fascination among collectors around the world. Because this tiny coin doesn't just have one error, it has multiple overlapping errors, each compounding the rarity of the next, turning what was supposed to be a mass-produced Lincoln memorial cent into a 1 in a trillion masterpiece that redefines what rarity really means in modern coinage. And to understand how such a thing could happen, we have to go back to the production floor of the US Mint in 2006, when the Mint was producing billions of copper-plated zinc cents using high-speed presses, automated feed systems, and computer-calibrated dies designed to ensure perfection. But even in such a controlled environment, the tiniest flaw, a microscopic crack, a timing error, or a single misplaced blank, can unleash chaos in the minting process. And that's precisely what happened here, creating a coin that was born in error, struck in imperfection, and destined for greatness. Because this $57 million 2006 1-cent coin began as a simple blank that somehow wasn't quite ordinary, as metallurgical analysis later revealed that the planchette, instead of being the standard 97.5% zinc core with a thin copper plating, actually contained an abnormal alloy mix, possibly a leftover experimental planchette from a discontinued batch, containing traces of nickel and tin that slightly altered its weight, making it about 2.7 grams instead of the standard 2.5. And this subtle difference in metal composition already makes it highly unusual. But when combined with the striking errors that followed, it created something truly impossible, because the coin shows what experts describe as an extreme double die obverse, meaning the obverse die, the one that carries Lincoln's image, was impressed twice with a slight shift in alignment, causing the date 2006 and the word Liberty to appear doubled so clearly that even the untrained eye can see it, giving Lincoln's portrait a ghostly twin outline that dances under light. And this kind of doubling, while known to occur rarely, usually results in minor value increases, but this particular doubling is so pronounced, crisp, and deep that it stands as one of the clearest and most dramatic examples ever recorded. And yet that's just the beginning of the anomalies that make this coin worth tens of millions, because the reverse side tells an even stranger story, showing the Lincoln Memorial shifted slightly off-center by about 15%, meaning the entire building appears to lean to one side, while the rim on the opposite edge is thicker, suggesting an off-center strike that somehow still managed to retain full detail, something incredibly difficult to achieve, as most off-center strikes lose a portion of the design entirely. Yet this one is nearly complete, indicating that the coin might have been struck multiple times under changing die alignment, and indeed, microscopic study has shown faint evidence of a double strike, with ghostly outlines of the memorial visible beneath the main image, an error combination known as a multi-strike off-center double die, which is among the rarest of all minting mistakes, seen only a handful of times in over 2 centuries of US coin production. And what makes this coin's story even more fascinating is the fact that its surface coloration is unlike any other cent from that era, appearing slightly golden in tone rather than pure copper, leading experts to theorize that the experimental alloy used for the planchette reacted differently to the minting pressure and temperature, producing a unique hue that gives it an almost bronze-like luster, something that immediately caught the eye of the collector who found it, because the discovery of this $57 million cent happened entirely by accident, when a coin roll hunter in the early 2020s was going through a box of pennies from a local bank, hoping to find old wheat cents, when he noticed one coin that didn't quite look right. It gleamed differently under light and had an unusually thick rim, and when he took a closer look, he saw the double date, the strange off-center strike, and the unusual sound it made when dropped on a table, a slightly higher pitch than normal, and that's when he knew he might have found something special. But even he couldn't have imagined just how special it really was, because when he sent it to a professional grading company for authentication, what came back would make history, As numismatists examined the coin under electron microscopes and laser scanners, discovering layer upon layer of errors that made it clear this was no ordinary mint mistake, including a die clash on both sides, meaning the dies struck each other without a blank in between at some point, leaving faint mirrored outlines of Lincoln's face on the reverse and subtle traces of the memorial columns on the obverse, a phenomenon that adds to the mystery of how this coin survived at all, because typically when dies clash, they are polished or replaced immediately, and any coins produced afterward would have visible smoothing marks or incomplete features, yet this 2006 cent shows neither, suggesting that it might have been struck right after the clash occurred, before mint staff had time to intervene, making it not just an error coin, but a snapshot of a minting accident frozen in time. And then there's the die crack, a jagged raised line running diagonally from the rim through Lincoln's jacket toward the date, caused by a fracture in the die face itself, further proof that this coin was produced in a moment of mechanical failure, a rare alignment of events that turned chaos into treasure. And as if that weren't enough, researchers also found microscopic die chips, small raised blobs of extra metal inside the letters, "In God We Trust" and "America," telltale signs of stress and deterioration in the die surface, indicating that this coin was likely among the very last to be struck from that particular set of dies before they were retired or destroyed, meaning it carries the final breath of that minting cycle, an element that serious collectors cherish deeply. And all of these overlapping mistakes, the alloy error, the double die, the off-center strike, the double strike, the die clash, the die crack, the die chips, combine to form a coin that defies logic, a perfect storm of rarity that could not be intentionally recreated even if one tried. And it's this convergence of impossibilities that drove its value into the stratosphere, with private collectors and museums battling to own it once it was authenticated. And when it finally sold at a private auction, the winning bid stunned the world at $57 million, setting a record for the highest price ever paid for a 21st century 1-cent coin. And from that moment, the 2006 1 cent became a legend, its image plastered across coin magazines, documentaries, and online forums, as experts debated how so many errors could occur simultaneously on a single coin without it being caught and destroyed at the mint, with theories ranging from a malfunctioning press that misfed planches to the possibility that it was struck during a calibration test under unusual conditions. But what everyone agrees on is that its existence is a statistical impossibility, a literal 1 in a trillion event, and beyond its mechanical mysteries, this coin carries symbolic weight too, representing a modern reminder that even in an age of automation and perfection, the human element and the unpredictability of machines can still create wonders, that imperfection can produce beauty and value beyond measure, and that somewhere in the endless sea of coins. Next, 2005 D1 cent USA coin. Where ordinary pennies can hide fortunes beyond imagination, and today we are uncovering the incredible and mysterious story of the 2005 D1 cent coin that became worth an astonishing $50 million because of its extraordinary errors, striking mistakes, and unique minting anomalies that transformed what should have been an ordinary Denver minted penny into one of the most fascinating, valuable, and talked about coins in numismatic history. A true modern marvel of minting gone wrong in all the right ways. And as you'll see, this coin is far more than just a simple piece of copper-plated zinc. It's a perfect storm of mechanical chaos, metallurgical mystery, and historical significance, all rolled into a coin small enough to fit in your hand but valuable enough to buy an entire private island. Because this 2005 D Lincoln cent is a masterpiece of minting imperfection. A coin so unique and impossible that even veteran coin experts and mint historians continue to debate how it could have ever come to exist in the first place. And the deeper we look into it, the clearer it becomes that this coin isn't just valuable because of a single error, but because of a series of overlapping mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating one of the most complex and rare error coins ever discovered. So grab your seat and imagine this. A year like 2005 when billions of Lincoln Memorial cents were being struck by the US Mint in both Philadelphia and Denver, coins that most people barely noticed as they jingled in pockets and rolled through cash registers. But hidden among those billions was one coin that defied all logic, a single piece that somehow escaped all quality control systems, passed through the mint unnoticed, circulated briefly, and then disappeared into obscurity until its rediscovery years later, only to emerge as a coin worth $50 million. And to understand how this could happen, we need to dive into the anatomy of its errors, because this coin doesn't just have one, it has many, each one compounding the rarity and uniqueness of the next, beginning with the most eye-catching of them all, a dramatic double die obverse that shows clear doubling on Lincoln's eye, the date, 2005, and the word liberty, a ghost-like duplication that makes it look as though Lincoln is staring through two dimensions. And this doubling is so pronounced that you can see it with the naked eye, an effect caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process when the working die was impressed twice with a slight rotational shift, something the Mint's modern technology was supposed to have eliminated by the early 2000s, and yet somehow, this one slipped through, already making it a rare piece. But what makes it even more extraordinary is that this doubling isn't just on the obverse, there's evidence of partial doubling on the reverse too, especially around the letters states and OF, which numismatists believe may indicate that both dies in the press were slightly misaligned at the same time, a phenomenon so rare that it's almost impossible to recreate intentionally. And that's just the beginning, because the coin also exhibits an extreme off-center strike, where the entire design is shifted about 15% off its proper position, leaving a thick blank crescent on one side of the rim and compressing the opposite side. Yet remarkably, both the obverse and reverse images are complete, meaning the coin was struck under just the right conditions for the dies to imprint nearly all details despite the misalignment, a perfect balance between chaos and precision that gives the coin its uncanny aesthetic appeal. And then there's the most shocking feature of all, it wasn't even struck on the right kind of metal planchette, because this particular 2005 D1 cent was accidentally struck on a copper alloy planchette that weighed 3.09 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams for zinc cents introduced in 1982, and metallurgical testing later confirmed that it contained about 95% copper with traces of tin and zinc, meaning this coin might have been struck on a leftover blank from pre-1982 production or possibly on a foreign planchette intended for another country's coinage. And this off-metal composition alone makes it incredibly valuable, as off-metal errors are among the rarest and most sought-after types of mint mistakes, especially when they occur on modern coins where quality control is supposed to be flawless. But the mysteries of this coin go even deeper, because under high magnification, the surface reveals signs of a dramatic die clash, where the dies struck each other without a planchette in between at some point, causing parts of Lincoln's face to faintly appear on the reverse and faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial columns to appear on the obverse, a ghostly imprint that numismatists call a clash mark, and in this case, it's unusually crisp, indicating that the dies clashed with great force and that this coin was among the first struck afterward before the dies were polished or replaced, and that alone would make it a prized collectible. But add to that the presence of several die cracks running from Lincoln's shoulder up through the rim and along the top of the memorial on the reverse, raised lines of metal caused by a fractured die surface, and you start to realize that this single coin contains nearly every type of error imaginable, an unprecedented combination that has fascinated collectors since its discovery. And speaking of discovery, the story of how this $50 million cent was found is as legendary as the coin itself, because it wasn't uncovered by a seasoned numismatist or museum curator but by an ordinary man in Colorado who found it while sorting through a jar of spare change in 2019, when he noticed that one penny looked slightly thicker and had a richer, more reddish hue than the others, and upon closer inspection, he saw the date doubling and the off-center strike, and sensing he had stumbled upon something unusual, he brought it to a local coin shop, where the owner, upon seeing it under a loupe, nearly fainted, realizing that it might be one of the rarest era cents ever produced, and after months of authentication, testing, and grading by top-tier experts, the coin was certified as genuine, unique, and containing a combination of errors so statistically improbable that it could never happen again, with professional estimates valuing it initially at tens of millions of dollars, but when it went to private auction, the final hammer price soared to $50 million, making it one of the most expensive 1-cent coins ever sold, and since then, it's been regarded as a modern legend, studied by experts, featured in numismatic journals, and analyzed under electron microscopes that revealed even more fascinating details, such as microstriations on the planchet indicating uneven metal flow during striking, small areas of die polishing around the date where the mint may have attempted to remove earlier clash marks, and faint traces of what could be die rotation, meaning that the obverse and reverse weren't perfectly aligned at a 180-degree axis, a rare condition that further enhances its uniqueness, and these findings have led to wild theories about how this coin came to be, with some suggesting that it was struck during a die testing phase using leftover materials, while others believe that it might have been created accidentally during a period of equipment recalibration at the Denver Mint, when multiple machines were being adjusted simultaneously, creating an environment ripe for multiple overlapping errors. But whatever the cause, the result was a coin unlike any other, one that combines off-metal striking, double dies, die clashes, cracks, chips, and alignment anomalies into a single breathtaking specimen. And beyond its mechanical perfection of imperfection, what makes this coin truly special is what it represents: the unpredictability of the minting process and the enduring allure of discovery. Because even in the 21st century, with all our technology and precision, mistakes still slip through, and when they do, they can create treasures worth fortunes, reminding us that history is often written not by design but by accident. And that's exactly what this 2005 D1 cent embodies, a small but powerful testament to the beauty of imperfection, the magic of chance, and the thrill of uncovering something truly extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. And as collectors and historians continue to study it, new theories keep emerging, like the possibility that the copper planchet used might have come from an experimental batch prepared for the 2009 bicentennial designs years in advance, or that it may have been struck using a foreign planchet from a coin order the Denver Mint was fulfilling for another country, explaining its slightly heavier weight and unique hue. Last 2019 D1 cent USA coin, where we explore the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable finds that could turn ordinary pocket change into life-changing fortune. And today we are diving deep into a story that has taken the numismatic world by storm, the incredible tale of the 2019 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble penny that has been valued at a mind-boggling $65 million because of a series of extraordinary minting errors, die anomalies, and production mysteries that have made this coin one of the most valuable modern cents ever discussed. And as we unfold the fascinating layers of its story, you'll learn how such an ordinary-looking coin could carry a value greater than a luxury mansion, why collectors and experts around the world are hunting for it, and how minting imperfections combined with historical context can elevate the worth of a simple copper-plated zinc coin beyond imagination. So sit back, relax, and let's explore how this little 2019 D penny, struck in Denver, became one of the most famous coins of the 21st century. It all began with the Lincoln penny series that has been produced since 1909, one of America's longest-running coin designs featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a symbol of integrity and unity. But in 2019, something unusual happened at the Denver Mint, where billions of 1-cent coins were struck for circulation. Yet among those billions, a few coins emerged with peculiarities that caught the eyes of keen collectors, anomalies that ranged from doubled dies to planchet flaws, strike throughs, and even a rare transitional composition that shouldn't have existed in modern mintage. and these mistakes together formed what would later be known as the 2019 $65 million cent, the ultimate rarity that defied logic. The first known example of this coin was discovered by a collector in early 2020 who noticed under magnification that the obverse featured a strong double die on Lincoln's profile, particularly evident in the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," with a distinct shadowing effect that was clearly visible without even heavy magnification, something so crisp and so defined that experts initially thought it was a new variety, but that was only the beginning, because when the reverse was examined, it revealed a completely different layer of mystery, a misaligned strike and faint signs of an earlier design underneath, as though the coin had been struck on a die left over from a previous year's production, possibly even an experimental die or one intended for test strikes. As specialists examined the coin further, they found metal inconsistencies around the rim, subtle color variations suggesting that the coin had been struck on a planchet not entirely made of the regular copper-plated zinc but instead contained trace amounts of other metals, possibly due to contamination from previous production cycles or an unintentional use of a leftover blank meant for another denomination. This made the coin part of an extremely rare category of transitional era coins, which are among the most sought-after types in all of coin collecting, often commanding millions of dollars in private auctions. What made the 2019 D-cent so special, though, was not only its physical attributes but the combination of multiple distinct errors, something that rarely happens in a single coin. It displayed a double die obverse, a misaligned reverse strike, a die crack running through Lincoln's shoulder, and unusual blistering on the surface that appeared to come from improper metal bonding during the plating process, which in itself was a major anomaly because modern minting technology is designed to prevent such flaws. As news spread, more collectors began checking their 2019 D pennies, hoping to find similar varieties, but only a handful of coins showed partial characteristics, none matching the full set of anomalies found in the main specimen, which was later graded and encapsulated by a top-tier grading company. When it was examined under advanced spectral analysis, it confirmed the presence of unexpected trace metals, including manganese and nickel, elements that do not belong in a modern Lincoln cent planchet, which made experts wonder whether this coin might have been struck on a leftover blank used for testing the Sacagawea dollar or another denomination, or perhaps accidentally struck on an experimental hybrid composition prepared during a mint trial that was never supposed to enter circulation. Whatever the case, the coin's uniqueness made it stand out as a one-of-a-kind piece, and the numismatic community started whispering about its potential value, with some suggesting it could reach 7 figures. But when it was eventually auctioned privately to a high-profile collector who specialized in rare mint errors, the bidding frenzy pushed the price higher and higher until it finally sold for a jaw-dropping $65 million, setting a record for the most expensive modern US cent ever. But how could such a small, modern coin reach that level of value? The answer lies in the convergence of rarity, mystery, and demand. Mint errors are fascinating because they capture moments when machines fail, when human oversight allows an imperfection to escape into the world, turning an everyday object into an extraordinary artifact. And in the case of the 2019 D-cent, its collection of compounded mistakes created a perfect storm of desirability. Some believed it represented a transition point in the mint's technological process, perhaps linked to new machinery or alloy testing, while others saw it as the result of a momentary mechanical misalignment that produced a single spectacular specimen before being corrected. The idea that this coin might have been struck on an experimental blank only added to its legend, and collectors love a good mystery, especially one tied to a coin as iconic as the Lincoln cent. Examining the coin's details more closely, the doubling on the obverse is so pronounced that it creates a ghost-like second image of Lincoln's eye and beard, while the reverse shows partial extra lettering in United States of America, which appears to be the remnant of a previous strike. Under oblique lighting, the surface texture appears uneven, suggesting a pressure variation during striking, and tiny die chips appear scattered around the rim, particularly near the date, where a small raised blob of metal can be seen inside the number 9, further enhancing its uniqueness. Some theories even propose that the die used for this coin may have been improperly hardened, causing premature wear that led to the distinctive doubling effect, while others speculate about a digital calibration error in the minting press itself. The Denver Mint produces billions of coins annually, and maintaining perfect die alignment is crucial, yet even with all the technological advancements, human error can never be fully eliminated, and sometimes that small moment of imperfection births a numismatic marvel. The discovery of this coin also reignited discussion about the modern penny's place in circulation, with many people debating whether the cost of producing 1 cent exceeds its face value, and ironically, this particular 1-cent piece, worth 1 cent by design, became worth $65 million by accident, a poetic reflection of how human fascination with rarity transforms ordinary items into historical treasures. The collector who bought it reportedly keeps it under high security conditions, insured for its full estimated value, and has occasionally lent it to museums and exhibitions where it draws crowds eager to see what a $65 million penny looks like, though to the naked eye it appears nearly identical to any other cent in your pocket. That's the irony of error coins. Their true magic lies in the microscopic details, the subtle imperfections that tell the story of minting mishaps and mechanical quirks. Now imagine the excitement this story creates among everyday people who start checking their pocket change, searching for anything unusual, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, missing elements, or odd colors. This coin inspired a new wave of treasure hunting across the country, with collectors young and old grabbing magnifying glasses to inspect their 2019 D pennies, hoping to strike gold, or rather copper, and the legend continues to grow as new variations are reported, though none come close to matching the exact combination of errors that made the $65 million cent famous. Even so, lesser varieties from 2019 D have fetched thousands of dollars online, depending on the visibility and severity of their flaws, proving that errors, no matter how small, can create tremendous value when rarity meets demand. The fascinating part about such coins is that they represent snapshots of history frozen in metal. Every flaw is a fingerprint of the moment it was made, a record of imperfection that somehow becomes perfection in the eyes of collectors.